Have you ever walked into a room and immediately felt something was different, even before anyone said a single word? Sometimes the moment you enter a space, you can sense the atmosphere almost instantly. You might notice tension in the air, a feeling of discomfort among people in the room, or on the other hand, a calm and positive energy that makes the environment feel welcoming. What is interesting is that these impressions often appear before any obvious signs reveal themselves. No one has spoken yet, nothing dramatic has happened, and yet somehow you already feel that something is going on beneath the surface. For some people, this experience happens quite often. They can walk into a conversation and immediately sense whether the mood is genuine or forced. They may notice that someone is smiling but still feel that the smile is not completely sincere. At times, they might sense that someone around them is upset or stressed, long before that person admits it out loud. It is almost as if their mind is quietly picking up signals that others seem to miss. You may have experienced moments like this in your own life. Perhaps you have noticed emotional shifts in people, even when they try to hide what they are feeling. A friend may tell you that everything is fine, yet something in their voice or behavior suggests otherwise. Without knowing exactly why, you can feel that something deeper is happening. Sometimes you may even feel affected by the atmosphere of a place itself. A certain room may suddenly feel heavy or uncomfortable, while another environment might instantly make you feel calm and relaxed. For a long time, experiences like these can feel confusing. You might wonder whether you are imagining things or simply overthinking situations. Other people around you may not notice the same details, which can make you question your own perceptions. But for many individuals, this heightened sensitivity is not random at all. Some people naturally develop a deeper level of awareness about the emotional and social signals that exist around them. Their minds become more attentive to subtle cues, such as body language, tone of voice, facial expressions, and even the silence that appears between words. Over time, these signals combine into an intuitive understanding of what is really happening beneath the surface of a situation. This ability is often described as sensing energy. In many cases, what people call energy is actually a combination of emotional awareness, intuition, and observation working together. When someone becomes more self-aware and more attentive to the world around them, they begin noticing patterns and signals that others may overlook entirely. Instead of focusing only on what people say, they also become aware of how people say it, how they move, and how their emotional state influences the environment around them. For people who are on a path of personal growth or deeper awareness, this sensitivity often becomes even stronger over time. As they learn more about themselves and the emotions they experience, they also become better at recognizing similar signals in others. The world around them begins to reveal layers of meaning that once went unnoticed. In this video, we are going to explore why this happens. We will look at 3 important reasons why some individuals develop the ability to sense emotional and social energies more clearly than others. By understanding these reasons, you may begin to see your own experiences from a completely different perspective. But before we go further, take a moment to support the channel. If this topic resonates with you, make sure to like this video so more people can discover it. Share it with someone who may also have experienced this kind of sensitivity, and subscribe to the channel for more content about awakening, personal awareness, and the journey of the chosen ones. One of the most common reasons some people feel as if they can sense energy around them is actually connected to a heightened awareness of emotional signals. Human beings constantly communicate information beyond spoken words. Every conversation includes subtle cues that reveal how someone truly feels, even when they are trying to hide those feelings. These cues appear through body language, facial expressions, tone of voice, posture, and even the rhythm of someone's speech. Most of the time, these signals exist quietly in the background of everyday interactions. Many people pass through conversations without consciously noticing these details. Their attention may be focused on their own thoughts, their next response, or the tasks they need to complete during the day. Because of this, a large portion of emotional communication goes completely unnoticed. The signals are still there, but they are not being observed closely enough to form a clear impression. However, some individuals develop a much stronger awareness of these subtle cues. Instead of focusing only on the words being spoken, they naturally observe the full range of human expression. They notice the slight tension in someone's shoulders, the hesitation before a sentence, the difference between a genuine smile and a forced one. Over time, these small details begin to form patterns that help them understand what is happening beneath the surface of a situation. When someone consistently observes these emotional signals, their mind begins to process them almost automatically. What once required conscious attention eventually becomes an intuitive sense. Instead of analyzing each cue individually, the brain combines them into an overall impression of the emotional atmosphere. This is often the moment when people describe the experience as sensing energy. For example, imagine walking into a room where several people have recently been arguing. Even if the argument has already ended and everyone has become quiet, the emotional tension may still be present in their body language and behavior. Someone with heightened awareness might notice the lack of eye contact between individuals, the rigid posture of someone sitting in silence, or the slightly strained tone in casual conversation. These signals combine to create the sense that something uncomfortable has happened. To another person who is less focused on these details, the room may appear perfectly normal. The conversation might seem calm, and nothing obvious would suggest conflict. Yet the individual who observes subtle cues will quickly recognize the emotional atmosphere without anyone needing to explain it. This ability does not come from supernatural perception. Instead, it grows from the brain's remarkable capacity to interpret complex social information. Human beings evolved as social creatures who depend on understanding one another's intentions and emotions. For some individuals, this sensitivity develops more strongly because of personality, life experience, or increased self-awareness. When someone becomes highly attentive to emotional signals, they begin recognizing shifts in mood very quickly. A person may appear cheerful at first glance, but a slight change in their voice might reveal underlying stress. A friend may say that everything is fine, yet their posture and facial expression suggest they are feeling overwhelmed. These signals may seem small on their own, but when combined, they create a clear picture of someone's emotional state. Over time, the brain becomes skilled at recognizing these patterns almost instantly. Instead of consciously analyzing each detail, the mind forms a quick impression based on the emotional information it receives. This impression often appears as a feeling or intuition, rather than a logical explanation. That is why many people describe the experience as sensing energy. They may not immediately know which specific signals created the impression, but their awareness has already processed the information. The result is a feeling that something in the environment feels calm, tense, joyful, or uneasy. Another reason some individuals develop stronger sensitivity to emotional signals is that they spend more time observing rather than reacting. People who practice reflection or self-awareness often become more attentive listeners. They are less focused on dominating conversations and more interested in understanding what others are experiencing. Because of this, they naturally gather more information during interactions. Their attention moves between words, expressions, and emotional tone. This expanded awareness allows them to notice details that others might overlook. In addition, individuals who have experienced personal growth often become more familiar with their own emotions. By learning to recognize their internal reactions, they develop a better understanding of how emotions appear in behavior. This knowledge helps them identify similar patterns in other people. For instance, someone who has learned how stress affects their own voice or posture may easily recognize those same signs in someone else. Their personal experience becomes a reference point for interpreting the emotions of others. This deeper awareness creates the impression that they are sensing something invisible. In reality, they are recognizing emotional signals that exist in plain sight, but require careful attention to detect. It is also important to understand that many environments contain layers of emotional communication happening simultaneously. In a group setting, multiple people may be experiencing different feelings at the same time. One person might feel excited, another anxious, and another frustrated. These emotional states influence the overall atmosphere of the room. Someone with heightened awareness often absorbs these signals collectively. Their mind detects the emotional patterns within the group and forms an overall sense of the environment. That is why certain spaces may feel uplifting, while others feel heavy or uncomfortable. The emotional tone of an environment is shaped by the people within it. When several individuals feel relaxed and positive, their behavior creates a calm and open atmosphere. When people are anxious or irritated, their body language and tone influence the space in a different way. Someone who is highly sensitive to emotional signals can perceive these changes even when they are subtle. This awareness can sometimes feel overwhelming, especially in crowded or emotionally intense environments. When a person absorbs large amounts of emotional information, their mind must process many signals at once. Without understanding why it happens, they may simply feel drained or uncomfortable in certain settings. However, when someone learns to recognize what is actually occurring, this sensitivity can become a valuable skill. Instead of feeling confused by their reactions, they begin understanding that their mind is interpreting emotional cues more deeply than most people realize. The key point is that sensing energy often comes from the combination of strong intuition and careful observation. The brain gathers subtle signals from body language, facial expressions, tone, and behavior, then organizes them into an intuitive understanding of the situation. What feels mysterious at first is often the result of highly refined social awareness. When people develop this level of sensitivity, they gain the ability to understand others in ways that go beyond simple conversation. They can recognize unspoken emotions, detect tension before it becomes conflict, and sense when someone needs support, even before that person asks for it. This awareness does not mean they are reading minds or detecting supernatural forces. Instead, it reflects a deeper connection to the emotional signals that constantly move through human interactions. And when someone learns how to understand and manage this ability, it becomes one of the most powerful tools for navigating relationships and environments with clarity and empathy. Another important reason some people feel as if they can sense energies that others cannot is the development of strong intuition through self-awareness. While heightened observation of emotional signals plays a significant role, intuition is what allows those signals to be interpreted quickly and meaningfully. Intuition does not appear suddenly or randomly. In most cases, it develops gradually as a person becomes more aware of their own inner world and more attentive to the patterns that shape human behavior. Self-awareness is the foundation of this process. When individuals begin reflecting on their thoughts, emotions, and reactions, they start recognizing how their inner experiences influence the way they perceive the world. They learn to observe their feelings without immediately reacting to them. Instead of being overwhelmed by emotions, they become curious about where those emotions come from and what they reveal about their environment. This reflective approach changes how the mind processes information. Instead of focusing only on obvious details, the brain begins connecting subtle signals that would normally go unnoticed. A person who regularly examines their own emotional responses becomes familiar with the small cues that indicate stress, discomfort, excitement, or unease. Over time, this familiarity makes it easier to recognize those same signals in other people. As a result, the mind becomes more skilled at detecting patterns. Human behavior is full of patterns, even though most people rarely stop to analyze them. The way someone speaks when they are confident is often different from how they speak when they are uncertain. The way someone sits, gestures, or maintains eye contact can reveal whether they feel comfortable or guarded. These patterns repeat across many interactions, but they are easy to overlook unless someone is paying close attention. Individuals who spend time developing self-awareness naturally become better at recognizing these patterns because they have practiced observing them within themselves. When they notice similar signals in others, their mind quickly associates the behavior with past experiences. This is where intuition begins to form. Intuition can be understood as the mind's ability to combine experience, observation, and emotional awareness into a rapid understanding of a situation. Instead of consciously analyzing every detail, the brain draws on stored knowledge and past patterns to produce an immediate sense of what may be happening beneath the surface. For example, you may meet someone for the first time and feel that something about the interaction is slightly off. The person might appear friendly, yet you sense hesitation or tension in the conversation. You may not be able to explain the feeling right away, but your intuition signals that something deserves attention. Later, you might discover that the person was uncomfortable, hiding something, or unsure about the situation. The signals were present all along, but your intuition recognized them before your logical mind had time to fully analyze them. This ability becomes stronger as people develop greater awareness of their internal responses. When someone trusts their own emotional signals, they become more willing to listen to their intuition rather than dismissing it as imagination. Many individuals learn to ignore their intuition because they are taught to rely only on logical explanations. While logical thinking is extremely valuable, it does not always capture the full complexity of human interaction. Emotions, tone, and behavior often communicate information that cannot easily be measured or explained in words. Self-aware individuals understand that intuition does not replace logic. Instead, it complements it. They recognize that their internal perceptions can provide useful insights that deserve attention. Rather than dismissing these impressions immediately, they observe them carefully and consider what they might reveal about a situation. Another important factor in developing strong intuition is emotional understanding. People who take time to understand their own emotional patterns become more skilled at interpreting the emotions of others. They know what anxiety feels like, how excitement influences behavior, and how frustration can appear in subtle gestures. This emotional familiarity allows them to identify similar feelings in different contexts. When they observe a slight change in someone's tone or posture, they may intuitively recognize the emotion behind it because they have experienced it themselves. This process happens so quickly that it often feels automatic. Instead of consciously thinking through each step of analysis, the mind produces an immediate impression. The person simply feels that the atmosphere has shifted, or that someone is experiencing a particular emotion. From the outside, this ability can appear mysterious. Others may not understand how someone can sense tension in a conversation that seems calm on the surface. They may wonder how a person can detect insincerity or discomfort before any obvious signs appear. But the explanation usually lies in experience and awareness. Each interaction a person observes adds to their internal understanding of human behavior. Over time, these observations create a mental library of emotional patterns. When a similar pattern appears again, intuition quickly identifies it. Self-awareness also strengthens intuition by reducing internal noise. Many people are constantly distracted by their own worries, expectations, or assumptions. These internal thoughts can interfere with their ability to perceive what is actually happening around them. When someone practices reflection and emotional awareness, they become better at separating their own feelings from the signals they receive from others. This clarity allows them to interpret situations more accurately. For instance, if someone feels uneasy during a conversation, they can pause and ask themselves whether the feeling comes from their own anxiety or from subtle cues in the other person's behavior. This habit of self-examination prevents misinterpretation and helps intuition become more reliable. Over time, people who cultivate this awareness develop greater confidence in their internal perceptions. They begin to trust the information their intuition provides, while still remaining open to new evidence. This balance between intuition and reflection creates a deeper understanding of social dynamics. Instead of reacting impulsively, they observe situations carefully and respond thoughtfully. It is also important to understand that intuition often operates through patterns that the conscious mind cannot immediately explain. The brain processes enormous amounts of information during every interaction. Facial expressions change in fractions of a second, tone of voice shifts subtly with emotion, posture adjusts depending on comfort or stress. Most of this information is processed subconsciously. When enough signals combine to form a recognizable pattern, intuition produces a feeling or impression. The person may not consciously know which signals created the impression, but their brain has already assembled the information into a meaningful conclusion. This is why intuition sometimes feels like sensing energy. In reality, the mind is interpreting countless emotional and behavioral cues at once. The result appears as a sudden awareness that something within the environment has changed. As people continue developing self-awareness, this ability becomes more refined. They learn to distinguish between genuine intuitive signals and assumptions based on fear or past experiences. They also become more comfortable observing situations without rushing to judgment. This patience strengthens intuition even further. Instead of reacting immediately, they allow the situation to unfold and confirm whether their initial perception was accurate. Each experience adds new understanding to their mental library of patterns. Eventually, the combination of experience, reflection, and awareness creates a powerful intuitive sense. This sense allows individuals to perceive underlying dynamics that others may overlook. They recognize emotional currents within conversations, shifts in group dynamics, and subtle signals that reveal deeper truths about human behavior. When people reach this level of awareness, their intuition becomes one of their most valuable tools. It helps them navigate relationships more wisely, respond to emotional situations with greater understanding, and sense changes in environments before those changes become obvious to everyone else. In this way, what many people describe as sensing energy is often the result of something far more grounded. It is the natural outcome of experience, reflection, and a deep awareness of both oneself and the people around them. The third reason some people feel as if they can sense energies others cannot is connected to their sensitivity to environments and social dynamics. While emotional awareness and intuition help individuals interpret signals from specific people, environmental sensitivity expands that awareness to entire groups and spaces. Instead of focusing only on one conversation or one person's behavior, the mind begins absorbing the emotional tone of a room as a whole. Every environment carries a social atmosphere that is shaped by the people within it. Even when no one is speaking openly about their feelings, emotional signals still influence the space around them. The posture people hold, the way they move, the tone of their voices, the pauses between sentences, and even the way individuals avoid or maintain eye contact all contribute to the emotional landscape of a group. Most people notice these signals only when they become obvious. For example, if an argument breaks out or someone expresses frustration directly, the emotional atmosphere becomes easy to recognize. But long before those visible moments appear, subtle changes often begin forming beneath the surface. Some individuals are highly sensitive to those early changes. They may walk into a room and immediately sense that something feels slightly tense, even though everyone appears calm. Perhaps two people avoid looking at each other. Perhaps the conversation feels forced or unusually quiet. Perhaps the tone of voices carries a slight strain that others fail to notice. These small signals may seem insignificant when viewed individually. However, when someone observes them collectively, they form a clear emotional pattern. This is why certain environments may feel uncomfortable, even when nothing obvious is happening. The tension is not necessarily expressed through direct conflict. Instead, it appears through the combination of subtle behavioral cues that signal unresolved emotions or unspoken disagreement. Individuals who are sensitive to social dynamics tend to absorb these cues quickly. Their attention moves naturally between different parts of the environment, observing not just what people say, but how they interact with one another. They notice shifts in body language, changes in vocal tone, and moments of silence that carry emotional meaning. Because of this awareness, they may sense group dynamics long before those dynamics become visible to everyone else. For example, imagine a meeting where several people are discussing an idea. On the surface, the conversation appears polite and cooperative, yet one person repeatedly hesitates before responding. Another sits with crossed arms and avoids eye contact. A third person speaks in a slightly sharper tone than usual. Someone with strong environmental awareness may quickly recognize that disagreement or discomfort exists within the group. Even though the conversation remains calm, the emotional signals suggest that tension is building beneath the surface. Later, that tension may eventually appear in open disagreement. When it does, others might feel surprised by the sudden conflict. The person who sensed the shift earlier, however, may feel that the outcome was predictable because the signals were present from the beginning. This sensitivity also applies to physical spaces. Some places feel welcoming and calm the moment you enter them. Others may feel heavy, chaotic, or emotionally draining. These impressions are not always imaginary. They often reflect the collective emotional state of the people who occupy the space regularly. For instance, a workplace where employees feel respected and supported usually carries a relaxed and cooperative atmosphere. Conversations flow easily, body language appears open, and people interact comfortably with one another. Even a visitor can sense that the environment feels positive. In contrast, a workplace where stress, competition, or unresolved conflict dominate daily interactions often carries a very different atmosphere. Voices may sound more rigid, conversations may feel cautious, and people may appear guarded in their behavior. Even if no one explicitly explains the situation, the emotional signals create a noticeable difference in how the environment feels. People who are highly sensitive to social dynamics naturally detect these differences. Their minds process multiple layers of information at once. Instead of focusing only on direct communication, they observe how individuals relate to one another within the space. They notice patterns of influence, leadership, discomfort, or cooperation that shape the emotional atmosphere. This awareness can make crowded or emotionally intense environments feel overwhelming. When many people with different emotions gather in the same space, the number of signals increases dramatically. Someone who processes these signals deeply may begin absorbing multiple emotional cues simultaneously. If the environment contains anxiety, frustration, or tension, those signals can create a sense of emotional pressure. Without understanding why this happens, individuals may simply feel drained after spending time in certain environments. They might leave a social gathering feeling exhausted without being able to explain the reason. In reality, their mind has been processing a large amount of emotional information throughout the experience. However, this sensitivity is not simply a challenge. It can also become a powerful strength when someone learns how to understand and manage it. People who recognize subtle shifts in group dynamics often develop strong interpersonal awareness. They can identify potential misunderstandings before they escalate into conflict. They may notice when someone in a group feels excluded or uncomfortable and respond with empathy. In leadership roles, this sensitivity can help individuals guide conversations more effectively. By sensing tension early, they can address concerns before they grow into larger problems. In friendships and relationships, the same awareness allows them to support others who may be struggling emotionally, but have not yet expressed it openly. The ability to perceive social dynamics also encourages deeper compassion. When someone notices emotional signals that others overlook, they begin understanding how complex human interactions can be. They see that people often communicate their feelings indirectly through behavior rather than through words. This understanding reduces the tendency to judge others quickly and instead promotes curiosity about what might be happening beneath the surface. Of course, sensitivity must be balanced with healthy boundaries. Not every emotional signal requires personal involvement, and not every environment must be absorbed deeply. Learning to observe without becoming overwhelmed is an important skill for individuals with strong environmental awareness. With practice, people can learn to recognize emotional signals while maintaining their own internal balance. They can choose when to engage with the dynamics around them and when to step back and protect their own energy. Ultimately, what many people describe as sensing energy within environments is often the result of highly developed social perception. Their awareness extends beyond spoken language to include tone, posture, silence, and subtle behavioral patterns. These signals form the invisible structure of human interaction. While others may overlook these details entirely, individuals with heightened sensitivity naturally recognize them and interpret the emotional atmosphere they create. In this way, sensing energy is less about mystical ability and more about deep perception. It reflects a mind that has become highly skilled at detecting complex emotional and social signals that others unconsciously ignore. As we come to the end of this discussion, it is helpful to reflect on the central idea behind everything we have explored in this video. Many people move through life without paying much attention to the emotional signals that exist around them. Conversations, environments, and social interactions often appear straightforward on the surface, yet beneath that surface there is a constant flow of subtle communication happening between people. For some individuals, these signals become much easier to notice. They feel the atmosphere of a room almost immediately. They recognize emotional shifts in conversations before anyone speaks openly about them. They sense tension, sincerity, discomfort, or positivity through tone, posture, silence, and small behavioral changes that others may overlook. If you often find yourself experiencing these things, it does not necessarily mean something is wrong with you. In many cases, it reflects a high level of awareness and a well-developed intuitive ability. Your mind may simply be more attentive to emotional and social patterns that exist in every human interaction. Throughout this video, We looked at several reasons why this sensitivity can develop. We explored how heightened awareness of emotional signals allows some people to notice subtle cues that others ignore. We discussed how intuition becomes stronger through self-reflection and personal growth, helping individuals recognize patterns in behavior and emotional dynamics. And we examined how certain people develop a deeper sensitivity to environments and group interactions, allowing them to sense changes in the emotional atmosphere of a space. When these abilities combine, they can create the feeling that you are sensing something invisible or difficult to explain. What many people call energy is often the result of a mind that processes emotional information more deeply and more attentively than most. However, it is also important to understand that this sensitivity should not become a burden. People who notice emotional signals easily sometimes feel overwhelmed by environments where many emotions are present at once. Crowded spaces, tense conversations, or emotionally charged situations can feel exhausting if you absorb too much of what is happening around you. Learning how to manage this awareness is an important step in turning it into a strength. Instead of feeling responsible for every emotional signal you detect, you can learn to observe those signals without allowing them to control your own emotional balance. Awareness does not require you to carry the weight of every atmosphere you encounter. When you develop that balance, your sensitivity becomes an advantage. It allows you to understand people on a deeper level. You can recognize when someone needs support, when a situation may lead to conflict, or when an environment is not aligned with your well-being. This awareness can guide your decisions, improve your relationships, and help you navigate social situations with clarity. In many ways, the ability to sense subtle signals gives you access to a deeper understanding of human behavior. It allows you to see the emotional layers that often remain hidden beneath ordinary conversation. Rather than seeing this sensitivity as something strange or confusing, it can be viewed as a form of awareness that simply operates at a more attentive level. When you learn to work with this awareness instead of resisting it, it becomes one of your greatest tools for understanding both people and the environments you move through every day. If this video resonated with your experience, take a moment to support the channel. Like this video so more people can discover it, share it with someone who may also feel sensitive to the energy around them, and subscribe to the channel for more content about awakening, personal awareness, and the journey of the chosen ones.